Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of the Quiet Work podcast. This one is special. I grew up on a farm. I have an honor to host Will Harris behind White Oak Pastures. So, the conversation today is going to be a lot about regenerative agriculture movement. Without any further ado, Mr. Harris, if you could please introduce yourself and the company you represent, and we'll start the conversation that way.
Well, thank you for having me on today, Matt. I appreciate it. I am Will Harris. I own a farm in Georgia called White Oak Pastures. It was founded by my great-grandfather in 18, operated it for his career, followed by his son, my granddad, followed by his son, my dad, followed by me. And I have two adult daughters and their spouses helping me with the farm today. And there's about 7 grandchildren running around here that have not helped yet. They're still small, but I have high hopes for so that'd be the 6th generation.
6th generation. That's incredible. I had one guest on the show that has been around for 100 years, and he's the 4th generation. But that's incredible. It's so rare to have an honor to speak with someone who has been part of something as good as that's been around for 150 years. So if you could walk us through the beginnings of it as you grew up. Did you know that you were going to take over? This is the only option for you, that you're going to take over the White Oak Pastures and you're going to be getting into the family business, or was there something else on your mind as well back then?
You know, I did. I never wanted to do anything but run this farm. Kind of unusual. My dad was an only child, born in 1920. And I was an only child born in 1954. And I never wanted to do any. And my dad was a very successful modern farmer. We can talk more about that in a minute. But he did really well. And I wanted to run the farm, and he did not want me to. He thought that it would be best if I got a job in town as a banker or a lawyer or a doctor or something. And I think most of that came from the fact that we were both only children. And we were best friends, father, son, business partners. And we could eat together, hunt together, fish together, drink together. When we started working together, it was really bad, very confrontational. And he didn't want to do that. But he insisted I go to the university when I graduated high school. I did, at the University of Georgia, majored in animal science in the College of Agriculture. That was not what he wanted me to do, but I did. And I came back here and ran the farm and changed it quite a lot.
Wow, that's quite incredible. So your dad essentially wanted you to go out and study and explore different paths as well in the beginning. You said he was a modern farmer. Is that the phrase that you used?
I think it's what I said. It's certainly accurate. My great grandfather and grandfather ran the farm. They ran it as a vertically integrated food system. They raised cows, hogs, sheep, goats, a number of different livestock, poultry. And they and their employees got up before daylight 6 days a week and slaughtered something. It might have been a cow, might have been a couple of hogs, might have been 100 chickens, whatever it was. And an employee would load them on a mule-drawn wagon and bring them 2 miles up the road to Bluffton, Georgia. That's where I'm sitting right now. And they would peddle the meat. There was a boarding house, there was a hotel, there was several stores, the more affluent citizens. And this is refrigeration, pre-internal combustion engine, inspection, USDA inspection. It was sell it or smell it. And they did, and it was successful, and they grew the farm. My dad, I told you, born in 1920, took over the farm post-World War II, 1946. And he was the era when farm agriculture was changing in this country. And he embraced cattle. We were cattle people. And he only raised cattle. And he didn't slaughter cattle. He just raised them for the feedlot industry in the West. Tremendous change in the operation. And I'm glad he did it. I don't think we would have survived had we continued to try to do what my great-grandfather and grandfather did. But Dad did that. He was very successful. He really enjoyed it. I think he was proud of the fact that he was an expert cattleman. He didn't have to know about all those other species. He could just be an expert cattleman, and he was. As I told you, I never wanted to do anything except run this farm as a monocultural industrial cattle operation, just like my dad. I loved it. Went to university, learned more about it, came home over my dad's protests, and ran it as an industrial modern cattle operation for 20 years. And it was profitable. I had no debt. We were good cow people. We never made a lot of money. I don't mean to say that, but I went back and looked. We never lost money raising cattle industrially. And I did that for 20 years. And 20 years into it, I started loving it less and less and less. And the excesses of it were increasingly obvious to me and not pleasant to me. So I started changing things pretty rapidly. And I did not in any way think I was going back to what my great grandfather and grandfather did. But as it worked out, that's kind of what happened. Today we raise cows, hogs, sheep, goats, rabbits, poultry. We have a garden. We have a USDA inspected slaughterhouse for poultry and red meat. When I started this business as a wholesale business, my timing was very, very lucky. Not smart, lucky. But I was able to sell Whole Foods Market, Publix Supermarket, Kroger, some others, the first pound of American grass-fed beef that they marketed as American grass-fed beef. I did not create that demand. The people were writing articles about it, and it was gaining popularity, but nobody had much, and I had a lot. So I was able to call on those supermarkets and get the business, and it was again, it was luck, not smart. We did really well with that for a long time. In 2015, USDA changed the rule on product of the USA, the term product of the USA. Prior to that time, 2015, for a meat product to be labeled product of the USA, the animal had to be born and raised and slaughtered in one of the 50 states. That's kind of what you would think.
Yes.
But due to pressure from lobbyists, they changed it so that if any value was added in the United States, it was a product of the United States, product of the USA. And that really adversely affected my margins in wholesale grocery. And these companies you bring it in, they could name it Matt's Cow Farm, even though it came from Uruguay, and label it product of the USA, and it was cheap. So it hurt my volume in the grocery stores, and we suffered there for a while. When the pandemic hit, again, we were lucky. My daughter had come home from college. She graduated and set up our online store, order fulfillment through FedEx and UPS. And we weren't doing very well with it, but she had set it up, and it was losing money. We did about $1 million a year, which was not enough to make it work. But the pandemic really set that on fire. And last year, we sold over $15 million worth of product delivered by FedEx and UPS, and it was profitable for us, and it brought our company back to profitability. Total volume's about 30 million.
Wow, congratulations. And I'm glad that it turned out the way it turned out because we need more farmers like you. I watched one of your videos and you shared the statistics that 85% of the meat we consume in the United States comes from 4 farms. That is just unheard. I mean, mind blowing. It's insane. I mean, if you think about it, how much meat that is and how much those 4 farms need, the amounts of meat they need to produce, it's scary.
Well, sadly, it doesn't come from 4 farms. It comes from 4 companies. And
For
those,
comp-
com-
yes,
and
I'm
those,
sorry.
com- those companies don't have any farms. They procure the meat and they own the distribution system. It's incredible. It's really, really incredible, that kind of market concentration.
Now, you also wrote a book, A Bold Return to Giving a Damn, One Farm, 6 Generations, and the Future of Food. What do you write about in that book, and what is the future of food?
Well, in the book is pretty much our story, the story of the farm, but mostly the development of our grass-fed beef company. And we were approached by agents for Penguin Random House, and they encouraged us to write the book, so we
Sure.
did. And then you don't have to worry about reading another book. That's the only one we'll have. But it was good for me. It made me go back and think through what happened and how it happened and what made it happen. So I'm really glad I did it, and I hope that it helps two groups. I hope it helps consumers understand things that are true that should be different in the meat business, the way that meat's provided for them. And I hope it gives farmers that want to do something different the opportunity or encouragement to try something different. These farmers who are farming conventionally, for the most part, are not making a lot of money. They've got a lot of assets tied up out there, and the return on investment is very, very low. Now, right now, beef prices are higher than they've ever been. So today is a good day. But in general, farmers are not doing very well. I think USDA says that 12 or 15 cents of the food dollar goes to the farmer. If you go to the store and buy $1 worth of something, food, the farmer doesn't get much of it. Here, well, if I sell it online or if I sell it at my store or my restaurant, we get 100 cents of every dollar. Now, that makes it sound like we're making a lot of money. We're not. We're doing okay, but the return on investment for this farm is really not as much as my friends who are CPAs and MBAs and CEOs. And I tell them what our numbers look like, and they think, why do you do that? And the fact is, we do it because we want to. We got a lot of equity in this operation that gets a very low return, but we're doing what we want to do, and it's brought yet another generation back to it.
That's yeah, that's very interesting, and I'm glad that you still have the new generations to come, because I know it's a challenge. We have a On my wife's side, a family owns a big farm as well, and they own cattle, a lot of it, and it's very challenging to convince the new future generations to be part of it, and bring back the path to producing the food right way, and not be part of the multi-billion-dollar conglomerates and companies that want to take over every industry one company at a time, pretty much.
I think that is a really a situation that deserves a lot of thought and discussion. For so many generations, land was passed on, father to child, and it continued to be worked. And here, and I'm sure it's true in any other agrarian economy, land is not passed on from father to child or parent to child as much as had been in the past. So often we reach the point that the parents have 7 children and they want to leave the land equally to all 7 children, and maybe there's one or two that are back farming the land, and the others live in cities somewhere doing something else, and they can't afford to buy their siblings' share. So there's a liquidation, and we've seen that over and over again. I think it's terrible. The old European way of passing on estates was it was left to the eldest son. And I
Correct.
think that's very sexist. I think that there's nothing right about saying we'll leave it to the eldest son. But I do think that it is the right thing to do to leave the estate to who's there working it and interested in keeping it together. That's the way that's the way our farm has stayed together through 160, almost 160 years. And I think and I will do that with my children. That I have children interested in this, children who are not. And I feel strongly that I should leave it to the ones who are interested in perpetuating it.
Absolutely, and especially those who care the most should definitely be part of it. And if they grow up caring about it more than other siblings, I think they deserve the right to continue the legacy and continue to do that. Now let's talk about some practices that are involved in producing food, especially beef, the right way versus the way that we see in those big stores all around us. There's obviously a big difference. You've mentioned grass at the beginnings of grass fed. Now we have the term grass fed and grass finished. Is there an actual difference between grass fed and grass finished? And what are the practices at White Oak Farm and Pastures?
Well, there's so much marketing involved in all these terms, and what what grass fed or grass finished means to me is the ruminant, cows, sheep, and goats, ruminants, eat no grain they're fed no grain during their life. They're fed only mother's milk and natural forage. It may be hay, forage. And I feel strongly that that's the case, and it's a shame that there's so much money paid to so many brilliant marketers that the messaging is just all over the board, and it's very hard for a consumer to know what they're eating, and that's intentional. Big multinational food companies want the consumer to be confused about what they're eating. That's how they make the sales.
I agree. And the meat tastes differently as well. What are for those who don't know maybe the difference or never really encountered it? Are there any risks associated with eating too much grain-fed beef or any other meat for that?
I think so, and I know a little bit about that.
What's the difference in the meat quality and what impact could it have on our health?
Well, I do have an opinion on that, and I know a little bit about it. But I made the decision a long time ago that I am not a nutritionist. I'm not a doctor. I am not a food scientist. I am a producer, and I know a lot about land and animals and the impact in the local rural communities. And I'm an expert on those things. I am not an expert in nutrition and those things. I'll tell you a story. I was asked to speak at a little event a long time ago, and I was following another farmer, and he stood up and talked endlessly about conjugated linolenic acid and omega-3s and omega-6s and just all that stuff, and it's important, and I'm sure he was probably right. But he sounded so non-professional to me that when I got home, I told my people to go through our website and take out anything that was not about the land and the animals in the rural community.
Really?
So those are the things I need to comment on. But I do have opinions on the nutrition and the medical impacts. But I'd really rather you get those from a professional.
Absolutely. But I believe in food be thy medicine, and we what we eat we are pretty much. So if you, especially for me, my body was able to tell the difference as I moved from Poland to Germany to United States, the difference in quality of food. So it is very important to me to get highest quality meats possible, and especially when I eat it every day. And I think a lot of people don't should take that approach, because that will save them a lot of money on medicine and some pharmaceuticals if they take care of what they put on a plate, rather than the aftermath and waiting for when it's too late for that.
We certainly share those sentiments.
Exactly. And also I know that it was very common in Europe where I'm from that some farmers start using antibiotics and steroids and what have you in their animals. That's another thing that's scary. I think it goes a long way to know the source of your food, and I think you and your team are keeping it very transparent online and offline. So I'm really
Well,
glad.
and I can tell you a little bit about those things. So when I was raising animals industrially, I really believed in pharmaceutical boosting my production. We used a lot of steroid implants to make the animals big. Ionospores are given as feed to make them convert feed more. Subtherapeutic antibiotics, which I think is horrible. It increases weight gain. I use those on my animals. I use pesticides and chemical fertilizer and tillage on my land indiscriminately. And I really felt good about using all those products. And I really thought I was very good at it. I mean, I'd studied it and I was successful in using them. But I came to study and understand the negative unintended consequences of all of those practices. And I quit using them. And I think it's the best thing I ever did. It hurt my production in the short run. It was very good for my animals and my land and my community and my customers. And I'm just so glad I made those decisions.
Is that where the radical traditional approach came from? Is that the
Yeah,
term?
It is. That's exactly right. And it was radical. I mean, I went from being a really heavy-handed abuser of all those technologies to just turning my back on 'em. And it was quite painful economically to do that. But the long-term benefits are so much better. I mean, we could take each one of those products and I think I can explain to you the horrible unintended consequences they have. What they're supposed to do. They do make things grow better in the short run, but there are really negative unintended consequences for using them.
Yeah, I agree with that. And I think we don't have to obviously get into politics. This is one of the rules that someone told me when I moved to the United States: never talk about religion, politics. And there's one more thing that I forgot to even mention. But I believe that the new administration is bringing good changes to the agriculture, and especially the regenerative agriculture movement. And I hope to see it more, that the quality of our food will continue to increase, because it's fascinating. I'm not sure if you ever traveled abroad to Europe, for example, but every time we travel back and forth, there is a difference that our stomachs react almost immediately when it comes to food, and even slightly processed foods over there are not as harmful as some even non-processed foods here over here. I hope that we'll stop this mass production, and we'll have a better quality food overall in the United States.
I have been to Europe. I have experienced exactly what you said. And it's kind of amusing to me that I think that our food tastes better, but I really don't use that. I don't use that as a sales attribute because it's subjective. You'd have to argue about that. And I think there, even though the taste is better, there are more important reasons to do it. It's better for the land. It's better for the local rural community. It's better for the animals. They're just so many compelling reasons to raise food properly and to choose to select the foods you eat properly. And they're compelling.
100%. Harris, I'll be really curious to hear, after 50 years in the business, how do you typically spend your days? How does your day to day look like on the farm?
It's changed a lot. When I was an industrial farmer, I had 3 or 4 minimum wage employees, and I ran the farm, and I made every decision. I told them what to do, and they did it, and we were farming industrially. And when we transitioned, fast forward to today, we've got about 170 employees, and we've got there's 6 people. I own the company, but there's 6 people on what I call my board of directors, and those 6 people manage about 21 managers. They manage the other 140 or whatever's left people, my managers, my directors and managers are really sharp, good, dedicated, wonderful, energetic. I can go wrong people. They're great, and I am surprised at what a decentralized the management is. We really let managers manage. They're good people. They have the right attitude, the right expectations. They do a good job. I have a cattle manager, a hog manager, sheep manager, garden manager, on down. And those people run those operations very, very autonomously. They make all the decisions. If they're going to do something that's really new and or really expensive, or we might have to talk about it. We're pretty much going to do what they want to do unless it's a compelling reason not to. And it's just been amazing to me. We started I have a 501c nonprofit called CFAR, Center for Agricultural Resilience. And we do a lot of training here for outside people. And one of the things we started is a internship program. We bring in 6 interns 4 times a year for 3 months. That's not long. That's just what we do. And we train them in all the things that we do. When they leave here, they could not go and start a farm, but it's a great starting point for them. And we hire a lot of those people, and they come from all over the world, not just the United States, all over the world. And a lot of them stay here and work here. We try to hire the best ones. We recruit them, and we've got just wonderful people here. I'm very proud of them.
That's phenomenal. I would love to be part of one day. I guess the new goal and ideal for people that are ambitious in 2025 and beyond is to one day not go online and become someone online, but actually go offline, have a little farm, perhaps have your know exactly where your food is coming from. Education like that is incredible. So thank you so much for doing that. I hope that maybe one day I'll be able to go through the training as well. I saw your Day on the Farm series on YouTube, which is great. It's very entertaining. I enjoyed watching it, and I will continue to do so. I think you should continue if you have the capability to give that content out there and show behind the scenes how the animals look like and how all the different departments are set up. Your directors at every department explain what the process looks like, the fulfillment center, the farming, the gardening. I think was very entertaining and also educational. And you keep people in your ecosystem so they will make better food choices and hopefully buy their meats from White Oak Pastures. Now that you ship pretty much anywhere in the country, right? And you're able to buy online without leaving the house.
Yeah, we do ship to 48 states, and I'll go into that. I ship to 48 states, and I'm happy to have the business. I need it. We spend a lot of money on infrastructure here. We got to sell a lot of, we got to sell $30 million worth of stuff to make it work. But
Absolutely.
I really don't. I hate that we have to ship product to 48 states to do that. I
Mm,
feel like, what I want to do is be a local provider, and
mm,
and I can't sell enough stuff in Bluffton, Georgia, to make it work. But I can
mm.
sell enough stuff in Georgia, Florida, and Alabama to make it work. And we ship to 48 states, and we appreciate the business. We're glad to do it. But I really hope that as this food production system evolves, there'll be other farmers to do what we've done in these other states across the country and have a far more local food system than the one we have today. In the meantime, I appreciate the business, but that's not my long term goal to do that.
That's very interesting, and I believe you're showing the way, and you're giving a great example for all the other farmers as well. So I believe this could be a great ecosystem that could be developed state by state and provide food to the local areas and maintain the quality and then stay close to it. There's one farm here about an hour from here that they even invite people to do the tours and walk around and show the fields, show the animals. You can stay even the night in some cases for some events during some parts of the year. So that's really interesting. And I have a question for you, Mr. Harris. You're doing a big volume in sales a year. You have large operations, we can say right now. How does expansion look like in your area? In your case, do you even plan, or your board of directors, do you plan for expansion, or do you want to focus on, like you said, more on the local areas and rural areas around it? How does that look like in your case? Because most of the companies, they want to grow and grow and grow and grow. I would be curious to hear how that looks like in your case.
I'm glad you asked that question. That's a good question. And it's probably an unusual answer, but we are as big as we intend to be.
Mm,
We have discussed it as a family. And if we grew this business much bigger, we would probably need to hire a CEO. We're farmers. We're not business people. We've had to
mm,
learn some business, but that's not running a big corporation is not something that me or any of my family members want to do. And if we hired a professional manager, we would be perpetually at odds with him
mm,
because a professional manager will be focused on monthly profit, quarterly profit, annual profit. And that's not our focus. We understand we've got to be profitable, we got bills to pay, but we don't think of it in terms of the month or the quarter or the year. We think far longer than that. We think generationally. And we make decisions and investments that we know won't pay off for a long time. We think that generationally for our children and grandchildren is what we ought to do. And I don't think we can do that in a modern business management environment. I think it goes back to that old perpetual family management, family ownership.
very challenging to bring in a CEO who's solely focused on shareholders' value and then essentially focus on those returns and reports rather than on the actual quality and what on the farm itself and what you care about the most. That would be I can see where the clash could happen there. Absolutely.
And we, we don't want to. I've already apologized for the fact that I think we're keeping some other people from getting in this business. I don't want to do more and more of that. We want to help other people get in the business. I tell myself that I'm helping other farmers by shipping to these 48 states because hopefully the customer will like what they get.
Yes.
And it'll help start something local where they live.
100%, yes, and that's a great way to look at it as well, Mr. Harris. If you had an opportunity to sit across the table from the young Will Harris, who's starting out and is about to take over the White Oak Pastures or business, what advice and farm? I'm sorry. What advice would you have for him?
I've given that advice many times. I'm glad you asked the question. My experience with young people who are interested in this kind of agriculture is they are focused on the production in the field.
Mm.
They're just, and I admittedly, that's the fun part. So I would tell them, stay focused on the production in the field. That is important. But also remember that there is processing. Customers don't buy cows and sheep and goats and hogs. They buy beef and pork and lamb. So you've got to find a way to make that raw material that you produce marketable. And then the third leg on the stool is monetization. You can do a great job raising it, a great job processing it, but you've got to find a market that will reward you for what you've done. And the most difficult part is keeping those three legs on the stool the same length. People talk about how the scale and volume, how big should I be? That's really not that important. I mean, it is a lot to talk about, but you can operate very small. We're probably as big as we need to be for the reasons I said. But don't worry about scale and worry about the three legs on the stool and being able to produce it and process it and market it.
Keep the stool balanced, otherwise it will break. If you look over the last decades, over the last years, what is the most fulfilling for you, and what do you?
I think what's most fulfilling for me is the way I see the consumer interest in what we're doing starting to grow. When I first transitioned from a very industrial cattleman, I thought of myself as an early innovator. I thought that was that really made me feel good about what I was doing. Early on doing this, and many others would emulate it, and there'd be a lot of success out there, and just be good for farmers, good for producers, farmers, and good for consumers. I've been doing this for 20 plus, almost 30 years, and it has not grown like I thought it would. So there have been times that I retreated from thinking of myself as an early innovator and thought, well, I'm just a niche producer. And I don't like that as well. I don't like the way it sounds, but it allows me to do what I want to do and make a living and feed my family and bring my family members back in. So that's okay. And I guess I vacillated between those two, early innovator and niche producer through the years. And I guess right now I feel more like an early innovator than I've ever felt, because there is a growing interest in what we do. You asked me to be on this podcast, and that's an example that you too think that somebody might be interested in it, and I feel good about it. I'm very careful about encouraging people to get into this. I've seen too many people get into this and not do well successfully financially. But I do want to help them. Those who choose to do it, I want to help them. I want to help be part of the success.
I love that, and it's absolutely hard work, 24/7. You have. I think in one of the videos, you or someone on your team said that there's hundreds or tens of thousands of hearts beating every single day that require care, require support in some cases, and obviously food as well, nourishment. So it's a lot that goes into it, and it's not definitely for everyone, but those who choose that path, I think they can use you and as an example, as a way to grow and be part of that industry and that movement. So
Well, I invite anyone who's interested. I invite you to come see us. I don't think I told you this, but we do have lodging and dining. We have lodging and a general store. And we have a restaurant. We serve 3 meals a day, 7 days a week. They leave a little early on Sunday night, but we will feed you. And we have in our website, whiteoakpastures.com, there's a schedule of events that you can sign up for.
Amazing. Yes, I will. I'll plan a trip and with our 9-month-old princess soon. Just came back from a little trip, but I look forward to that trip as well. I would love to have her experience that because the best memories I have are from being on a farm and being amongst animals and being in the field and doing the dirty work with my grandfather, my uncles, my cousins. That was the best time ever. And I hope that she'll get to experience it somehow, shape, or form as well. So thank you so much for mentioning that. And I will also make sure to leave that information below the video for the viewers. If they are ever in that beautiful part of the world, they can explore it as well. My final question for you, Mr. Harris, is what are you excited about the most for the near future or for the future in general?
Well, the most exciting part of me is the fact that I've got these two daughters and two in-laws, and they have become mature farmers and agribusiness people. I'm excited about the fact that I've got these 7 grandchildren that are hopefully some of them, probably not all of them, hope some of them will have interest in this. And I see the same pattern in other places. The people that come here as interns or for our educational sessions are seldom experienced farmers. I'll say almost never experienced farmers. They're almost always non-farmers, probably non-agrarian people that have found an interest in food that's raised this way and want to know more about it. And they come and they're so passionate. And these are smart, for the most part, young people. Our interns are seldom 18 years old, right out of high school, or 23, 2 years old, fresh out of college. They're almost always uh, well into their 30s or 40s or even 50s. And passionate people just want to know, want to learn, want to do. So it's an exciting time.
I agree with you, and I guess that fulfills the rule because I entered my 30s last year, and I'm getting more and more excited about that and interested as well. So I guess you're right on point out there. But I believe with more and more farmers that will follow your steps with the content they create, you will reach more people, also the younger generations, and make them more excited about that. Because I feel that the social media craze and all the last 10, 15 years of innovations are at some point going to bore them to the point where they will want to get offline as well and explore the actual world outside of their phones and devices, not physical, but electrical devices. So I hope that if we continue, if you and other farmers will follow that path, we'll create good in the world, and we'll see a good movement for continue to thrive.
I tell people, and I'll tell you that I honestly think I'm the happiest person on the planet. I mean, I love my life. I love what I do.
Mr. Harris, thank you so much for your words, for your wisdom. Thank you for doing what you're doing. It was a true honor to have you on the Quiet Work podcast. Thank you so much again. I look forward to visiting you in person in the near future.
I enjoyed being on with you today. Thank you for having me.